Good evening. I'm Sean Farley, Director of Public Affairs for the American College of Radiology. On behalf of the members, guests, and staff of the ACR, I want to welcome you to this very special evening honoring ACR's new gold medalists, our honorary fellows, Distinguished Achievement Award recipient, and of course our 105 new fellows. Leading our processional tonight is Dr. Ann C. Roberts. She, of course, is the ACR's Vice President and carrying the ceremonial ACR mace, which was first used at the ACR's 50th anniversary meeting back in 1973. Now, the history of the mace can be found in tonight's program. Following Dr. Roberts is the president of the college, Dr. David C. Kushner. Chair of the ACR's Board of Chancellors, Dr. Bibb Allen, Jr. Vice Chair, Dr. James A. Brink. Secretary-Treasurer, Dr. Howard B. Fleischon. Speaker of the Council, Dr. William T. Harrington. And Vice Speaker, Dr. Timothy L. Swan. Following Dr. Swan is our invited clergy, Father Donald J. Heat of St. John Newman Catholic Church. Next up in the procession are additional members of the ACR's Board of Chancellors, Drs. Kimberly E. Applegate, Richard L. Barron, Lincoln L. Berlin, Edward I. Bluth, Beverly G. Coleman, Gerald D. Dodd III, Keith J. Dreyer, Bruce J. Hillman, Peter A.S. Johnstone, Alan D. Kay, Emil J.Y. Lee, Frank J. Lexa, Lawrence A. Liebscher, Karzina J. Matsura, Geraldine B. McGinty, Deborah L. Monticello, and James V. Rawson. Unable to attend are Drs. Marta Hernandez-Schulman, Emma Elizabeth Oates, and Mitchell D. Schnall. I'd like to ask that everybody on stage please be seated. Now we proudly introduce our three new gold medalists. Each of them is escorted by a member of the ACR's Board of Chancellors. Dr. Walter J. Curran, Jr., escorted by Dr. Seth A. Rosenthal. Dr. Lawrence P. Davis, escorted by Dr. Sherry L. Cannon. And Dr. Charles D. Williams, escorted by Dr. Philip S. Cook. you please be seated? Following the new gold medalists are our two new honorary fellows, each escorted by a member of the Board of Chancellors. Dr. Peter J. Hoskin, escorted by Dr. Richard A. Geisy. Dr. Christoph L. Zollikofer, escorted by Dr. Alexander M. Norbash. Following the new honorary fellows is our new Distinguished Achievement Award recipient, escorted by a member of the Board of Chancellors, Mrs. Mary Jane Donahue, escorted by Dr. Jacqueline A. Bella. I'd like to ask those on stage to please go ahead and be seated. Thank you. Next up entering the ballroom are the ACR's new fellows. They will each be recognized by name when they receive their certificates later on in tonight's program. I'd like to ask that all our new fellows please take your seats. Thank you. Now I'd like to turn the podium over to our president, Dr. David C. Kushner.
Thank you, Sean. Honored guests, members of the Board of Chancellors, ladies and gentlemen, this is the formal convocation of the American College of Radiology. It is the custom of the ACR at this ceremony to invite a member of the clergy to help us begin the proceedings, and we are privileged to invite Father Donald J. Heat to give our invocation. Father Heat.
God, our Creator, you are the source of all life. You have called these men and women, members of the American College of Radiology, to serve those suffering from injury or disease through their practice of medicine in the field of radiology. We ask you to be present with them as they gather here for their annual meeting. May the time they spend in this meeting be both profitable and enjoyable. May the presentations they attend and the conversations in which they participate sharpen their skills and deepen their wisdom so they may better serve their patients. We give you thanks especially for those men and women whom we honor this evening as fellows, gold medalists, honorary fellows, and the recipient of the Distinguished Achievement Award. Their dedication to their profession is an inspiration to their peers as well as to the larger medical community. May the honors they receive from the college inspire them to continue their practice with love and devotion. May their success motivate the next generation of doctors of radiology to the highest standard of medical practice. Finally, Creator God, we commend to you the thousands of patients whom these doctors have treated and will treat. May these doctors use the skills and knowledge which you have given them to diagnose and treat successfully the men, women, and children who come to them so that they may live healthier, happier, longer lives. Hear our prayer, Creator God. Amen.
Please be seated. We are called together this evening, first to honor diagnostic radiologists, radiation oncologists, and physicists who have attained the notable stature in our specialty. In recognition thereof, they are to receive the Fellowship of the American College of Radiology. First, we recognize an individual for her notable service to the college and the profession at the national level, our new Distinguished Achievement Award recipient. In addition, we have two distinguished physicians who have contributed to the advancement of radiology, our two new honorary fellows. Our further purpose is to honor 3 ACR members for their distinguished and extraordinary service to the college and to the discipline of radiology, our 3 new gold medalists. Fellowship in the American College of Radiology is an honor not given for the asking. It must be earned by a member through his or her endeavor. It represents recognition by peers. The bylaws of the college require nomination of a candidate for fellowship by the state chapter of which the candidate is a member, or by 2 fellows, one of whom is not associated with the nominee in practice. A member of the college becomes eligible for nomination after a minimum of 10 years as a full member of the college. The candidate's qualifications are then investigated. The member must receive the approval of the Committee on Fellowship Credentials before election by the Board of Chancellors. Less than 10% of all ACR members are fellows. All of the qualifications for this exclusive group have been met by each of the candidates here tonight. I now call on the Chair of the Board of Chancellors, Dr. Bibb Allen, to address the candidates for the degree of fellowship in the American College of Radiology.
Thank you, President Kushner. Ladies and gentlemen, the American College of Radiology seeks to serve humanity by developing and exemplifying the highest traditions in medicine. In accepting fellowship in the college, you pledge yourself to abide in strict accord with its principles and declarations to practice radiology in a way that reflects credit upon it and upon you. You further promise to do all in your power to advance the science and art of radiology and to extend the prestige and influence of the American College of Radiology so that it may better serve the people of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, the President will now administer the fellowship, the Pledge of Fellowship. Will the candidates and the board please stand?
Thank you, Dr. Allen. Ladies and gentlemen, the Fellowship Pledge of the American College of Radiology requires that you continue to uphold the ethical standards promulgated by the American College of Radiology, to strive constantly to advance your knowledge, to provide your services freely to those unable to pay for them, to be sensitive to the needs and aspirations of the society in which you live and practice, and to help advance the status of radiology through teaching those desirous of learning. Fellowship candidates, please raise your right hand. Do each of you reaffirm your determination to place the welfare of your patients before all other considerations in your practice of radiology? Do you pledge yourself to abide by the principles and tenets set forth in the Pledge of Fellowship? In accordance with the bylaws of the American College of Radiology and by the authority vested in me, I hereby confirm upon each of you the degree of Fellow in the American College of Radiology. Please lower your hands. I ask everyone to please be seated. When Dr. Allen reads your name, please come forward and receive your degree as a Fellow of the College and then return to your seat.
Well, good evening. Our first candidate today, Suni Abrara. Cameron Arar. Anthony L. Alcantara. Kimberly Katz Rami. Blair J. Andrew. Kyle Jacob Antes. Lemuel S. Ariratnam. J. A. Baker. Matthew Ballo. Laura W. Bancroft. John Dean Barr. Murray David Becker. Timothy Andrew Bernauer. Bradford W. Betts. Gilbert E. Boswell. J. Scott Bowen. Gerald D. Boxerman. Barton F. Brandstetter IV. Nicholas John Carlavato. Timothy Joseph Carmody. Kevin J. Coakley. Paul P. Cronin. Kenneth S. Crystal. James Edwin Currier. Kirkland W. Davis. James E. Denier. Drew H. Deutsch. Karen P. Dopke. Eric Menzer Dorn. Peter E. Dross. Donald E. Emerson. Alan Avantosh. Kenneth L. Ford III. Arthur Jackson Fountain. Isaac R. Francis. Susan J. Frank. Kenneth W. Frazier. Mark P. Freeman. Dean R. Fullingham. Julianne S. Greenberg. S. Bruce Greenberg. Harry K. Hajadimos. Rada N. Hernandez Squash. Brian R. Hertz. Andre L. Haladny. Jacqueline S. Holt. Haro K. Hussein. John Houston III. Tatiana S. Kane. Susan V. Katapuram. Rajenda P. Kadar. Frederick Kelch. Monica L. Keith Garcia. Beverly Agua Kinitz. Mark A. King. James Adams Kirkham. Richard P. Kluchnick. David M. Kunin. Howard M. Levy. Lisa Horton Lau. Jonathan Stephen Lutz. James D. Lutz. Mitchell McTay. W. Gene Matchett. Barbara L. McComb. James Ewell McDonald. James A. McGee. Jonathan R. Medvard. Tejas S. Mehta. Douglas N. Mentz. Mark Lawrence Montgomery. Marcia E. Murakami. Mary S. Newell. Diego Nunez Jr. Michael T. Adi. Kimberly Horton Overdeck. Matthew Ala Pasea. Lincoln K. Powell. Maitre D. Patel. John Albert Pizzulo. Leanne Elizabeth Philpotts. George A. Pajoro, Jr. Martin H. Reed. Linda L. Reilman. Michael Ian Rothman. Kurt P. Schellis. David L. Swartz. Rakesh D. Shah. William L. Simpson, Jr. Kevin Lee Smith. A. Gregory Sorensen. Edward Steiner. Philip H. Stratemeyer. Richard Ray Sullivan. David W. Switzer. Onita F. Taylor. Robert D. Timmerman. Gregory Martin McDonald Vidacek. Stephen S. Waslowski. William J. Weddock. Paul T. Weatherall. Sharik Jan Vestra. Anthony R. Whittenmore. Todd R. Williams. And Margarita Louise Zuli. Congratulations to all.
I ask the board and audience to please stand and extend congratulations to the new fellows. Please stand. Thank you, and please be seated. Although this is a solemn occasion, it's always a lot of fun, and we're happy that you're participating. So don't be shy. Don't be shy. And I've seen a lot of people who I've known for years get fellowship, and that feels really good. So tonight we will recognize the honoree in the new distinguished category of Distinguished Achievement Award. This award is given in recognition of a highly notable service to the college and the profession of radiology at the national level. Eligible for this nomination and recognition are individuals who deserve significant recognition by the ACR, but who are not eligible for the gold medal This year, the ACR recognizes the distinguished achievements of Mrs. Mary Jane Donahue. So this is fun. The ACR staff and many members will recognize a familiar face at this year's convocation. Though she left us for the retirement a few years ago, Mary Jane is welcome back to receive the ACR's Distinguished Achievement Award. Mrs. Donahue worked at the ACR for 27 years, starting in 1985, and I was a member of the college when she joined the college, and I was happy when she retired, and I'm happy to see her back again. I'll insert these little notifications from time to time. So she began as an administrative assistant to the executive director, John Curry, at the time that the ACR relocated from Chicago to Reston, and worked in a variety of positions before ultimately assuming the role of assistant director to the Board of Chancellors and executive projects. Mrs. Donahue's own experience as a patient motivated her with her work in the college, and she valued the ACR's mission to improve care for patients and providers and took pride in her role in bringing about change in healthcare. The college benefited from Mrs. Donahue's talents, hard work, and dedication through 2 executive directors, 14 chairs of the board, and 28 ACR presidents. Imagine what that's like. All of whom knew that when they needed to be sure they needed to get something done and accomplished correctly, Mary Jane would come through, and she always did, always. Mary Jane had the remarkable capability of responding to requests from many sources, whether that be board leadership, staff, chancellors, or even spouses. Imagine spouses making requests. And never made the requester feel that there was a burden or it was beyond the scope of her responsibility. Somehow she managed while never losing her welcoming smile, which you can actually see at this very moment. Mrs. Donahue had a soft spot for the ACR Christmas party, and she even drafted her husband, Jim, to play Santa Claus. Through the ACR, conducted the Face of Radiology campaign. To many leaders and most others, Mrs. Donahue was the face of the ACR. It is fitting that the American College of Radiology present Mrs. Donahue with the Distinguished Achievement Award.
Thank you, Dr. Kushner, who just stole most of my speech. I also want to express my thanks to the members of the Board of Chancellors, the Committee on Awards and Honors, and those who nominated and supported me for this Distinguished Achievement Award. I am overwhelmed. I never dreamed I would be the one on this stage facing the audience. For many years, my job was behind the scenes, making sure the board and honorees got onto the stage, certainly not me. Prior to walking on this stage tonight, I made a promise I would not take charge in the gold medal robing room. Mind you, this promise did not come easy after all those years of backstage maneuvering. And I must add that I thought the staff did a great job in replacing me. As most of you know, I started working for the ACR in November of 1985 when the headquarters was moved from Chicago to Reston. When I started, I was one of 44 employees. Today, there are over 400 employees and 4 offices in the DC, Washington, Philadelphia area. When I started, the reception desk was on the 3rd floor. The 1st floor looked like a warehouse. The ACR has come a long way and gone through many changes during the years of employment. But the one constant that I had was wonderful people to work with and always had a desk in the executive area. I was hired to be a clerk to the executive director and operations officer. 3 days after I started working, I received the results from a routine mammogram that showed I had cancer. I was so worried about my new job that I rushed back to work in less than 3 weeks. Despite the fact that my chair and computer were not at my desk when I returned, I had a great job with great benefits. I realized then what a great organization the ACR is. I could not have been in a better place to receive the support and expertise offered to me. Through the ACR's programs for staff, I was able to work my way from clerk, which probably does not exist in the working world anymore, to assistant director, working with the executive staff and the board. ACR has always had great programs for staff and encouraged growth and continued education. It would definitely take me more time to elaborate on the 27+ years I had with the ACR. I want to highlight just a couple things. I had 2 great bosses, John Curry for 17 years and Harvey Neiman for 10 years. Both are truly missed today. During my tenure at ACR, I worked with 27, but Dr. Kushner said 28, so maybe I lost count. I'm a senior, remember, and vice presidents and 14 board chairs. With the change in leadership every 2 years, sometimes it was a real challenge to learn new ways. I guess that is the one reason I liked my job so much. Change can be challenging. I worked hard, had a connection with people, and a desire to help. Prior to coming to the ACR, I worked 13 years for doctors as an office manager. At the ACR, we work with doctors. What a pleasant change. I always found the ACR members a joy to work with. They have always been most appreciative of what the ACR staff does for them. In addition to working with the board, I had the privilege of working with the Commission on Physics, the Inter-Society Committee, the Committee on Awards and Honors, and the College Nominating Committee, just to name a few. I don't know how many of you know this, but you do because Dr. Kushner just mentioned it, but my husband, Jim Conrad, played Santa for about 15 years for the ACR children holiday parties. He was also the official candy man, going to Costco every month to fill up the candy bowl in the executive area, which started as a small bowl on my desk and grew to a large box. While I'd like to talk more about some of the wonderful experiences I had at the ACR, I do not want to exceed my time. So I'd like to close with a few words that I learned for success. No matter what your occupation is, your success is determined not by the job itself, but by what you make of it. It is important to be motivated, passionate, energetic, and have integrity with the ability to treat others as you want to be treated. I was very fortunate to have wonderful people, staff and physicians, to work with who helped me succeed. I might also add that while I was good at the jobs I had in my career, I am great at retirement. I want to especially say thank you to my ACR family, my husband, my 3 daughters and their husbands, my grandson, my granddaughter, and my many friends for all your support during my employment at the ACR. Having my family here today is a gift. Being here today is an honor I will never forget and will treasure forever. Thank you again very much.
Dr. Jim Thrall once told me he thought Mary Jane was the ACR's secret weapon. I think he was right. So we now come to a very special distinction, the degree of Honorary Fellow in the American College of Radiology. This recognition is bestowed upon distinguished individuals who, by virtue of their residence, education, profession, or even where they received their board certification, they are ineligible for admission as members of the college other than honorary. This year, we have invited two outstanding leaders to join our fellowship. The 2016 honorary fellows are Dr. Peter J. Hoskin from London, England, and Dr. Christopher L. Zollikofer from Zurich, Switzerland. The honorary fellows are here this evening and are well known to many of us through their strong ties with the colleagues in the United States and at the ACR. Now I would like to invite Dr. Peter J. Hoskin to join me at the podium. So when practice-changing research emerges, it's never by accident. It's the result of a committed group of professionals working under extraordinary leadership to find answers to difficult questions about patient care. One such revolutionary research trial was the randomized phase 3 trial that established RA-223 as the standard treatment for certain groups of patients with metastatic prostate cancer. Many consider this to be one of the most influential studies of the treatment of GU cancer in the past several years. Peter J. Hoskin, MD, was one of the key investigators in this trial, adding to a professional roster of important trials in radiotherapy for bladder cancer, lymphoma, and bone metastases, and in prostate brachytherapy. Dr. Hoskin attended medical school at the University of London's Royal Free Hospital School of Medicine and trained in clinical oncology at the Royal Marsden Hospital in London. He has held numerous leadership positions in organizations such as the European Society for Therapeutic Radiation and Oncology, the American Society for Radiation Oncology, the Royal College of Radiologists, the National Radiotherapy Activity Group of the Department of Health, the National Radiotherapy Clinical Information Group, and the National Cancer Research Institute. He has given over 100 lectures at major meetings and conferences. He serves on the editorial boards of many prestigious journals, contributed nearly 300 peer-reviewed publications, edited 16 textbooks, and authored or co-authored 42 book chapters. Those of you who are residents, please think about this productivity level. Dr. Hoskin is a consultant in clinical oncology at Mount Vernon Cancer Center in Northwood, England, and professor of clinical oncology at the University College London, where he focuses on GU radiotherapy, lymphoma, and palliative care. Dr. Hoskin has received the Royal College's Gold Medal, perhaps the highest honor bestowed upon a radiologist in the UK, is chief editor of Clinical Oncology, the Journal of the Royal College of Radiologists. He also serves on the editorial boards of several other radiation oncology and cancer journals. Through influential publications and research trials, Dr. Hoskin's expertise has reached beyond the UK, impacting clinical oncology and the care of cancer patients worldwide. And it is fitting that the American College of Radiology present Dr. Hoskin with honorary fellowship.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kirshner. It is indeed a great honor to be standing here and receiving the honorary fellowship of the ACR. Indeed, I looked back at the list of previous honorary fellows, and I did for a moment wonder if, in fact, you'd got my email confused with someone else, because that list is indeed a list of people who I have for many years admired and respected, many of whom have had a major influence on my life and my career. And in providing a resume, I would like to highlight 4 of those. The first, in fact, was Professor Anne Barrett, who was the last English oncologist to receive this honor of fellowship of the ACR, and you awarded that to Anne in 2006. And it was just 3 weeks ago that she and I were in Turin. We were both giving award lectures for the ESTRO meeting, and I reminded her that, in fact, she is the very reason that I may be standing here, because when I was a very young medical student and we had an elective period, I went to the Royal Marsden Hospital, and Anne was a newly appointed senior lecturer with Professor Mike Peckham. And she took me around and she showed me this wonderful world of oncology. And from that moment, there was only one career I was going to follow. And then looking back further to 1981, 1981 was a good year for the Brits. You actually appointed 4 English radiologists to the honorary fellowship. And one of those was Mary Catterall. And Mary was a very individualistic lady who I worked for when I was doing internal medicine at the Hammersmith Hospital. And she was an oncologist who ran the cyclotron there, one of the first cyclotrons to be producing clinical neutron beams. And there I learned that clinical observation and clinical research is essential when developing new treatments, because there we found that the radiobiology of neutrons, with all its promise, did not deliver in the clinic. And indeed, there were many major morbidities with normal tissue damage from that effect. And going back further, 1972, Julian Bloom was your honorary fellow. And Julian Bloom and I worked together at the Royal Marsden. He was one of my mentors and teachers for several years while I was there. And he was a very enigmatic, powerful man. He was chairman at the Royal Marsden for many years. One of his characteristics was starting his day at 9 o'clock and finishing his day at 10 p.m. and expecting his juniors to be with him all the time. And my family would be upset to know that that's where I got my habits from as well. But what I learned from him was that if you're going to achieve things, you don't do it just by pitching up at 10 o'clock and going home at 4 o'clock. You need to put in the hours and the work to deliver the goods. And then finally, coming up to 1994, Stan Dish, who was at Mount Vernon, he had the courage or the temerity or perhaps even the foolishness to appoint me in 1992 to Mount Vernon as a consultant. In fact, I took his post when he retired, and there I've been for the last 20-odd years. Initially, I worked with his wife, Michelle Saunders, and together we built up a very active academic unit with the Gray Laboratory when it was there. And I owe a lot to Stan and Michelle for the time I've had there and the research programs that have developed. So it is indeed a great honor to be standing here. My thanks to the American College of Radiology, to the Board of Chancellors, to the Honors Committee. Particular thanks to Simon Lowe, who was my main promoter, I think, and took me forward to the committees for approval. And, of course, thanks to all my colleagues at Mount Vernon. I should perhaps point out that the Mount Vernon I work at is in North London, not in Virginia. The main difference being that we were established in 1868, and the Victorian buildings that were reoccupied moving out to northward are largely unchanged, whereas I looked with some envy at the pictures of Mount Vernon Hospital, Virginia, where you have a very modern, purpose-built building. And finally, thanks to Frida White from the ACR has been fantastic in sorting out the logistics of getting me here, being very dutiful, looking after me all the time I've been here, sorting out things, and I'm very grateful to Frida for making this visit as smooth and as enjoyable as possible. So it's a great honor to be here. My thanks to the ACR for inviting me here for this wonderful occasion. Thank you.
Shake hands, let's step over here and get a photo taken. Now, please, will Dr. Christoph L. Zollicoffer please join me at the podium? Interventional radiology has had few advocates as influential as Christoph L. Zollicoffer, MD, Professor of Radiology at the University of Zurich. Dr. Zollicoffer was among the first Swiss radiologists to work with Dr. Kurt Amplatz, one of the most famous pioneers in cardiovascular and interventional radiology. His innovations later led to the development of techniques for therapeutic embolization of arteries using compressed Ivolon and coils, which make it easier and safer to close vessels supplying blood to tumors. Dr. Zollicoffer's career has spanned decades and covered various aspects of interventional radiology. He received his education and training in Zurich, Switzerland, and in the University of Minnesota in Minneapolis. He has worked as a professor of the University of Zurich, chair of the Department of Radiology at Kantonsspital Winterthur, and scientific director of the International Diagnostic Course at Davos. He also served as a founding member, president, and chair of the board of the Cardiovascular and Interventional Radiological Society of Europe. In 2003, that society recognized Dr. Zollicoffer with its gold medal. Dr. Zollicoffer encourages his colleagues to take ownership of their vital role in patient care and be involved in the entire care process. He also advocates for a patient-centered approach to medicine by empowering patients to make informed decisions about their care. In his innovative work to develop new approaches and support improved patient care, Dr. Zollicoffer has advanced the field of interventional radiology in both Europe and the United States. And as a result of these numerous contributions to science and delivery of interventional radiology, it is fitting that the American College of Radiology present Dr. Zollicoffer with honorary fellowship.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kushner. It's very unusual that I'm standing here. I would never have dreamed that this would occur. And so I'm really, truly humbled and deeply honored to receive this very prestigious honorary fellowship. And this is certainly a highlight and culmination in my professional career. I'm deeply moved and grateful to all those who have proposed and supported my candidature for this great honor. And above all, I would like to mention and thank Larry Muroff, who was, I think, crucial in this candidature. But the fact that I stand here today on this podium, I also owe to the work and support of my teachers and mentors, particularly Professor Alois Rüttimann from Zurich and Kurt Amplatz from Minneapolis, as well as many other colleagues and friends and collaborators. Professor Rüttimann, the founder of the prestigious Davos course IDKD, was my first chief in radiology and a longtime mentor. He was a man of visions and one of the first to set up close relations between European and American radiology by inviting the most prestigious American faculty to Davos in order to expose European radiologists to the American way of teaching and formal education. And I'm very proud and thankful that he chose me as one of his successors to continue this work in 1996 and successfully further this intercontinental teaching relation, which will celebrate its 50th anniversary in 2018. And I'm very happy to see many former and also active teachers of the Davos course in this audience. So I believe that this honorary fellowship also honors, in a way, the IDKD or the Davos course, as well as Swiss radiology. It is also thanks to IDKD that I met my other important teacher and mentor, which I want to particularly thank, namely Professor Kurt Amplatz in Minneapolis, one of the great pioneers in interventional radiology, as was already mentioned by Dr. Kushner. His genius and support triggered my enthusiasm to specialize in interventional radiology, and he and his highly productive team were decisive for my subsequent scientific and academic career. And I might just tell you a little anecdote of Kurt Amplatz, which signifies his character. He was once asked whether he regularly reads radiology, and then he replied, Well, I don't need to read radiology, we write it. Well, and last but not least, I need to thank my family, above all my lovely wife, Olga, who with great understanding and patience supported my professional career. For many years, Olga has also been involved in the social programs of CERSI during my time as a member of the board and presidency, and until this year also for the Davos course. And I would like to thank her for the long-lasting sharing care. Therefore, Olga certainly also deserves to be included in this great honor I'm getting today. And so once more, I would like to thank ACR and the board for this exceptional honor, which makes this a very special and unforgettable day. And I would like to include Freda White, who made everything that this trip to here was so smooth and helped me with changes which were necessary. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We need to go get a photo. Wow. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we will now bestow the highest honor of the American College of Radiology. We will now add additional names on our most distinguished roster, the recipients of the Gold Medal of the American College of Radiology. To this outstanding group, we add 3 of our best: Walter J. Curran Jr., Lawrence P. Davis, and Charles D. Williams, all FACR. I am pleased to ask Dr. Walter J. Curran Jr. to join me at the podium. Only through methodical and careful research can the science of radiology and radiation oncology continue to advance, bringing with it advances in patient outcomes. A longtime advocate and architect of ACR's research efforts, Dr. Walter J. Curran currently serves as a group and board chair for the NRG Oncology and National Clinical Trials Network supported by the National Cancer Institute. He previously held the role of group chair in the ACR Radiation Therapy Oncology Group, and he remains the RTOG Foundation's board chair. Dr. Curran graduated cum laude from Dartmouth College and received his medical degree from the Medical College of Georgia. After a residency in the Department of Radiation Therapy at the University of Pennsylvania, he completed an internship in internal medicine at Presbyterian University of Pennsylvania Medical Center in Philadelphia. Dr. Curran also went on to study radiation oncology at the University of Pennsylvania. In addition to his roles with ACR Research, Dr. Curran currently serves at Emory University as Executive Director of the Winship Cancer Institute and as Lawrence W. Davis Professor and Chair of the Department of Radiation Oncology. He is also a Georgia Research Alliance Eminent Scholar and the Chair of Cancer Research. He has also served as Chair of the Department of Radiation Oncology at the Jefferson Medical College at Thomas Jefferson University in Philadelphia. Dr. Curran specializes in the management of patients with locally advanced lung cancer and malignant brain tumors. In his search to understand these diseases, he has led several landmark clinical and translational trials. He has co-authored or authored more than 300 articles in peer-reviewed journals and presented papers and given named lectures at many venues throughout North America, Europe, Asia, and Australia. As a physician, Dr. Curran counts his greatest successes as the patients he's able to help through radiation oncology, whether that means a patient recovering from cancer or living longer or more comfortably than expected. Dr. Curran has kept patients in the forefront of his practice and in his thinking. And based on this remarkable career of both clinical and research contributions, it is my pleasure to award the American College of Radiology Gold Medal to Dr. Walter J. Curran, Jr.
So good evening and thank you. I really want to accept this extraordinary honor on behalf of hundreds and perhaps even thousands of physician investigators that have worked within the RTOG and now energy oncology over the past 50 years. True to the spirit of the American College of Radiology, those physicians, nurses, scientists, and other investigators have invested hundreds, if not thousands, of volunteer hours on behalf of their patients. Their core work is home at their own medical centers or their medical schools, but they come together in the evenings, on the weekends, to figure out the best way for us to advance the care of their patients and the patients around the world. And when you look at the extraordinary accomplishments of these groups, with a very modest federal budget, the progress we made against adult brain tumors, our understanding of patients with head and neck cancer and how we can treat them while preserving laryngeal and swallowing function, how stage 3 lung cancer went from an incurable disease to a disease that people are living with now for many years, how prostate cancer treatment is no longer something with significant toxicity, but is something men can live with in a healthy and active life, how new technologies developed by other colleagues in the American College of Radiology and beyond can be brought to the bedside, not to be implemented because there's now a payment code for it, but to be brought to the bedside and tested in a rigorous manner before we go forward. So for that, I accept this gold medal on behalf of those hundreds of people who have worked countless hours on behalf of their patients. I also accept this award on behalf of our own patients. This coming Wednesday, I'll see a woman in follow-up who was enrolled on an RTOG trial in 1998. I enrolled her on that trial while I was in Philadelphia. Circumstances allowed her to move to Georgia, so I now see her in follow-up. She is now 18 years following enrollment in a trial for a malignant brain tumor. At the time I treated her, she was a young nurse at a hospital in Philadelphia, unmarried. Now when I see her, we get the pleasurable opportunity to complain about the joys and sorrows of having adolescent children. She is without symptoms and living an active life in Norcross, Georgia. Those are the kind of successes that I accept this award on behalf of. And the trial that she was enrolled in back in 1998 was published just 2 weeks ago in the New England Journal, where for the first time, RTOG demonstrated or executed a trial, first trial ever in the world, to show a survival benefit for one therapy over another for this cohort of brain tumor patients. I accept the award also on behalf of ACR, because many of you in this audience don't realize what an amazing partner the American College of Radiology has been to prospective clinical cancer research literally over the past 50 years. When I started getting involved with RTOG, I did ask the question, how did ACR come to be the sponsor of this type of research? And what I learned was that John Curry, decades ago, worked with Simon Kramer in the radiation oncology department at Jefferson, and Jefferson Medical College found it a bit too cumbersome to hold a federal grant. So they suggested to John, why don't you bring it to the American College of Radiology? And the rest is history. I also want to talk about a term that I think is relevant to this setting today, and that's a term, transdisciplinary. Many of us here studied rigorously for years in our discipline, which is, in this case, diagnostic radiology, radiation oncology, or one of our subspecialties. We know what interdisciplinary coordination is. We know what multidisciplinary care is. But the term transdisciplinary is a term I've come to know because I'm working in one of my responsibilities now, putting together a competitive renewal for our Cancer Center Support Grant at Emory. And one of the sections we have to write is, how does our Cancer Center promote transdisciplinary work? And by that they mean people taken out of their customary role and doing something different that will allow us to progress, in this case, against cancer. A radiologist having a new role in the organization to advance care, understanding, or benefiting patients in some way. And I would argue that anyone who's active in the American College of Radiology, be they board members, be they the new fellows, really function in a transdisciplinary way. The volunteer work all of you do on behalf of the college is not what you trained in fellowship in radiology for. The fundraising and the advocacy you do and the work you do on behalf of radiology around the world is not something you have a degree in. It's something that is a transdisciplinary effort. And I would argue for the next few decades, the work done by members of ACR to make progress against human disease, most of our efforts are going to be in transdisciplinary areas and areas that really advance science and our understanding of how to reduce suffering from human disease. And finally, I'd like to thank my wife, Laura, my family, my 4 children, my late parents, for all the efforts they've done. And I have one final comment for the fellows here, and that is, you should feel honored to get the fellowship here from the American College of Radiology, but the American College of Radiology should also feel honored by your participation with them. Thank you very much.
Let me shake your hand. Let's get a photo taken. Will Dr. Lawrence P. Davis please join me here at the podium? I'm so excited, I'm slightly confused. So we'll do that after. So volunteerism and education advance our specialty today, and they also have far-reaching effects on the future of medicine. As Lawrence P. Davis, MD, FACR, moved through his career, he was constantly thinking of those to come after him. This professor of radiology focuses on preparing the next generation of radiologists at his own institution, Hofstra North Shore LIJ School of Medicine. Dr. Davis also has mentored uncountable junior faculty and trainees while serving as Radiology Residency Program Director and Vice Chair of Radiology at Hofstra. Dr. Davis studied at the Colgate University in Hamilton, New York, and then attended State University of New York Downstate Medical Center in Brooklyn. After medical school, Dr. Davis completed a medical internship and radiology residency at North Shore University Hospital, followed by a nuclear medicine fellowship at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine. After training, Dr. Davis worked as Chief of Nuclear Medicine at Jacobi Hospital in Bronx, New York, and then joined the faculty of Wayne State University School of Medicine in Detroit, where he held positions including Chief of Nuclear Medicine, Radiology Residency Program Director, Associate Chair of Radiology, and finally Interim Chair and Radiologist in Chief. In 2002, Dr. Davis returned to North Shore LIJ Health System, where he serves as Vice Chair and Program Director of the Departments of Radiology at both North Shore University Hospital and Long Island Jewish Medical Center. In addition to training future radiologists, Dr. Davis influenced the certification process. He was an examiner for the American Board of Radiology and chaired its Nuclear Radiology Maintenance of Certification Subcommittee. He also served as the president of the Association of Program Directors in Radiology and received that association's Achievement Award. Most recently, he chaired the Radiology Residency Review Committee for the Accreditation Council of Graduate Medical Education. Dr. Davis served as chair of the ACR Commission on Education. He championed online radiology education as a means of streamlining education while offering information in a variety of formats, and he's the individual who invented Case in Point. So if any of you are benefiting from that, it's his fault that you have that wonderful benefit. Roll the thing a little bit more here, if that's right. So then he worked on the in-training exam online. Dr. Davis has delivered dozens of seminars and lectures and authored and co-authored 28 publications and 8 book chapters. His commitment to education, volunteerism, professionalism, and camaraderie will continue to benefit radiologists for generations to come. As an exemplar of the term professor and with the thanks of all radiologists, it is fitting that the American College of Radiology present Dr. Davis with our gold medal.
Wow, thank you. Dr. Kushner, members of the Board of Chancellors, fellow awardees, members of the council, new fellows, family and friends. Thank you so much for this incredible honor. I remember my first council meeting when I sat out in the audience for the convocation. Never in a million years did I think I'd be standing here tonight receiving such an amazing award. I am truly honored and humbled. This award does not belong to me alone, but to all those who helped me with my career. So I'd like to just thank a few, and I promise it'll only be a few. First, of course, my family, my wonderful wife, Mary, and my incredible daughters, Cecilia and Bernadette. I know that all the time out of town at committee meetings and all the nights and weekends working on committee assignments had an impact on our family. So thank you so very much for your support and being with me during this incredible journey. I love you all very much. My wife's sister, Catherine, and her 3 children, Nicholas, Jackie, and Christina, are also here. Thank you for being with us during this wonderful occasion. I'd like to thank the ACR's Awards and Honors Committee for obviously nominating me for this award. But you know what, guys? I think they thought it was the other Lawrence Davis they were doing this for. I'd like to thank many members of the Board of Chancellors that I've worked with over all these years. Many of them have become really close friends and mentors. Especially my 2 predecessors as Education Commission Chair, Val Jackson and Bob Hattery. Thank you very much. And of course, to Jim Borgstead and Harvey Neiman, who appointed me as the Commission Chair and gave me the absolutely incredible opportunity to make a real difference in radiology education nationally. It was amazing. I'd like to thank my colleagues and my chairs of my 2 institutions, Wayne State in Detroit and North Shore LIJ, which, by the way, now is called Northwell Health. I had to say that. I know you guys are out there somewhere. Thank you for your support and understanding of all the time commitment and travel. And finally, nobody could do all the things that Dr. Kushner said without the support of staff. And for me, that was Ron Friedman and his incredible ACR Education Commission staff. This award also belongs to you. You did all the work. I may have given a little bit of direction, and I did a lot of cheerleading for it all, but you guys did the heavy lifting, so thank you. In the minute that I have left, I'd like to say a few words to our new fellows, and especially to the trainees that are out in the audience. As I thought about what my career and what got me to this very moment, I actually think I can summarize it in one word, and that word is volunteerism. So my request to you is, when asked, just say yes. Become part of organized radiology. Become part of the ACR committee and commission structure. After all, you guys are the future of our profession. I've had an amazing 30-year career. I've loved every single minute of it, and mostly being able to work with the ACR so closely. I'm truly honored by this award. Thank you.
This is a great job because I've known all these people for so long. It's just terrific seeing this happen. And he was referring to the Chinese Association of Radiologists who are visiting us at this meeting. So that's who's here, and it's great to see them as well. So now will Dr. Charles D. Williams join me here at the podium?
Thank you.
We're coordinating here. We've worked together for years, but this is a... So Charles D. William, MD, FACR, has been a friend of mine for decades. He has focused on pediatric radiology for much of the last 50 years. He's found his passion while working in the Air Force as a physician in the 1960s. After earning an undergraduate degree at Mercer University in Macon, Georgia, Dr. Williams graduated from the Medical College of Georgia in Augusta. He completed a rotating internship at the Medical Center of Central Georgia and a family practice residency at Medical Center of Central Georgia. He went on to complete a radiology residency at Baylor College of Medicine in Houston and served as chief resident from 1972 to 1973. Dr. Williams served as a captain in the United States Air Force from 1968 to 1970. Following this, he was clinical fellow and instructor in pediatric radiology at the University of Florida College of Medicine. In 1974, Dr. Williams began practice with Radiology Associates, where he still practices today. Dr. Williams pioneered the ACR position of the radiologist assistant, and by defining this role, Dr. Williams, in concert with representatives of the ASRT, ARRT, and others, paved the way for radiographers to achieve an advanced level of certification and expand their careers as radiologist extenders, working under radiologist supervision and providing patient care in the diagnostic imaging and interventional environments, while preserving the radiologist's critical role in interpretation. Dr. Williams represented the ACR for a decade in this effort. Throughout his career, Dr. Williams has valued his roles within organized radiology. He has served as president of the Florida Radiological Society from 1997 to 98. He has received its highest honor, the Gold Medal. He served on more than 50 ACR committees, commissions, and task forces, including a term on the Board of Chancellors, where he served as chair of the Commission on Human Resources, and finally as ACR vice president. He continues to serve as an ACR delegate to the AMA. Dr. Williams has published widely in his career, including two very interesting short stories and collections of short stories about growing up in Georgia. If you ask him, he'll tell you about this for a long time. Dr. Williams cites one of his life's greatest honors as working with patients and his fellow physicians. His contributions over a long career have positively impacted communities he serves and the professionals he has worked alongside. But despite all of these professional achievements, I know Charlie would tell you that it all pales in comparison to his pride in his family. I believe 28 of them are here. Is that the right number? Yes. 28 of them are here. With all that, he has contributed throughout his career to advance pediatric patient care, our profession, the Florida Radiologic Society, and the ACR. It is only fitting that the American College of Radiology present Charles D. Williams, MD, FACR, with our gold medal.
Thank you, Mr. President, Chair of the Board, Board of Chancellors, family, friend, guests, radiologists, and the new fellows. I tell you, when Bill Balling called me, I was just tickled pink. I couldn't believe it. I think it's the greatest honor I've ever gotten, except when my wife Pat agreed to marry me. And so congratulations to all the honorees. And anyway, with Bill, he has been a great chair of the Board of Chancellors, but he's had help through his supportive wife, a true Southern lady that makes him look good. So they tell me I'm limited to 5 minutes. But those of y'all that know me know I can't say good morning in 5 minutes. So, but to the new fellows sitting out there, I remember sitting where you're sitting, and I was thinking, you know, I'd like to get more involved. And if a guy like me from the cotton fields of South Georgia, whose father couldn't read and write, was a sharecropper, whose mama cooked on a wooden stove, we took our baths in a tin tub, whose grandmama wanted me to go off to college to get a dilemma to hang on my wall, can be standing up here, any of y'all can do the same thing. And I want to thank my group, Radiology Associates of Tallahassee, and I think our president, Jim Killis, is here with partner Mary Swain, John Diddlich, and even the editor of the Capital Medical Society, Charlie Moore and his wife, Lynn. I want to thank Radiology Associates for allowing me the time to participate in 50 committees, commissions, task forces, numerous conference calls, to be the luncheon speaker in about 40 states, and some states like Tennessee 7 or 8 times because they wanted somebody that spoke English. And states like New York, which is above Atlanta, and I got to meet such wonderful people like Mark Adams and Jacqueline Bellow, Saver Abelson. Pat and I became dear friends, was fond of Roger Hyman. And, but some states like Texas that were big, where we got to be friends with Stuart Bouchon, Paul Ellenbogen, Mickey Gibito, name dropping. But my point is, if you have a member in your group who's interested in organized radiology, please allot them the time, because it brings returns educationally, politically, and economically, but most of all, it makes life better for our patients. Now, we in radiology have machines that buzz and grind, and we look at the innards from the outside. But what makes ACR great is the people. It's a bit like the people here on the stage and the board and like the other honorees. And it's people like my dear friend Larry Miroff and his wife Carol. And I mention spouses because ACR makes all of us part of the spouses part of the family. And you get to associate with such classy and ethical people like Lenny Berlin and Phyllis, and giants like James and Jean Thrall and Carol and Barry Rumack and Bruce Hillman, the editor of JACR. And I have to thank my dear friend and mentor, Van Moore, and his wife Marie. I remember when Van finished his training and he came down, I interviewed him for a job, and he had the good sense to turn me down. And it made me wish I had taken him out to eat besides the catfish pad, I think. And I want to thank the people who wrote wonderful letters of support for me, which included Paul Larson, Kay Lozano, Tom Harrell, Doug Maynard, Jeffrey Smith, Carol Rumack, Cyril Donaldson, James Thrall, Larry Miroff, Stormy Johnson, Tony Hasso, Lenny Berlin, Van Moore, and Mike Raskin, and I thank y'all from the bottom of my heart. But some of the people who have touched my life have passed on, like Gerald Dodd last year, and Ed Singleton. I just wish he was here tonight so I could thank him for not kicking me out of his program. I remember my first day. He was giving a talk and had residents from MD Anderson, University of Texas, in Baylor, and he was showing x-rays of a dwarf. And he made the statement, said, this mama had 6 others just like him. Does anybody know this family? And I raised my hand and asked him if her name was Snow White. And he stopped the conference and said, who are you? I said, I'm Charlie Williams from Moultrie, Georgia. He said, that explains it. And years later, before he died, he wrote me and told me I was his favorite raconteur, and I had to go to the dictionary to look that word up. And others have passed on, like Harvey Neiman, that were great. But you know, they're not dead, who live in lives they leave behind, in whom they have blessed. They live a life again and shall live through the years, and they continue to live on through us after we've been influenced by them. And I have to mention the wonderful ACR staff, and congratulations once again to Mary Jane Donahue. But I have to mention Brad Short and Jim Marson. They were like brothers to me, and there's others, which included Jan Cox and Trina Madison, Bill Shields, and of course Frida White and Josh Cooper, and the list goes on. And they helped make ACR great, but they also helped me. And as the chair of the Commission on Human Resources, I was pleased with the relationship ACR built with ASRT, particularly with Christine Lung and Sal Martino, and ARRT with Jerry Reed. And we were able to work with them on the guidelines, so we had input. Then Paul Larson and Paul Ellenbogen and Ed Bluth, they have continued this relationship. And I have to thank FRS. Years ago, over 45 years ago, I attended my first meeting. There were about 12 there. One Saturday afternoon, we showed cases. They introduced me as this kid from South Georgia whose idea of a 7-course meal was a 6-pack of beer and a plate full of possum. And when I stood up, I said, that's a dead-burn lie. I don't even drink beer. And this past year, we had 62 residents at our meeting, over 300 attendees, and we've had great leaders like Rick Moore and Larry Miroff and Phil Cook and Joe Sergliano, Dan Singer. So we've come a long way, and ACR and FRS have been a great family. My wife Pat and I care deeply about family, and she's made this journey with me, went to every meeting with me, and she's been the glue and the foundation of our family. And I'm so proud and delighted to say our children and grandchildren are here. There's a total of, I think, 28 sitting there, out there. So would y'all stand, please? Thank you. In closing, when I was a young'un, my grandma sat on the front porch of my grandma, and she sang to me, "Precious memories, how they linger, how they ever fled my soul." I thank y'all for the precious memories.
Unbelievable, huh? He really is like that. For 40 years, I've known that man. I want to personally take this opportunity to express my thanks and appreciation to all the spouses and families and guests here tonight for this special event. I want to thank especially them for their understanding and commitment to all of us during the years that we have been involved with our careers. Without your understanding and dedicated support, we would not be who we are today. This has been truly an inspiring evening, and we are all fortunate to live and work in a country that gives us the freedom to learn and provide the best care to our patients. In recognition and appreciation for all that we enjoy, I ask everyone to please stand, raise your voices by joining our guest vocalist, Ms. Vicki Golden, in singing "God Bless America." After the singing, please remain standing for the benediction.
While the storm clouds gather far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for land so fair as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. From the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thank you. So in closing this convocation, please permit me to ask Father Donald J. Heat to join me again on the podium and lead us in the benediction.
Creator God, we ask your blessing on the members of the American College of Radiology. Bless them with the desire always to learn more about advances in their fields. Help them to collaborate fruitfully with other members of the medical profession. Give them a dedication to excellence. May they always strive to learn more and do better. Strengthen their compassion for the patients who come to them for diagnosis and healing. Be with them during the days of this meeting so that these days will be a time of growth for each individually and for their profession generally. Watch over them, their families and friends, their colleagues, and their patients. And let us all feel the power of your loving care. Amen.
Thank you, Father. I ask the guests to be seated until the recessional is completed. I invite everyone to join me immediately following this convocation to attend a special reception honoring our new fellows, distinguished achievement awardee, honorary fellows, and gold medalists. Thank you. This convocation is adjourned. Please be seated.